Alrighty, top of the afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We're outside the shop for a little show and tell session. It is in the afternoon of December 24th, 2025, which equals it's Christmas Eve. Hopefully everybody out there has their Christmas affairs in orders. Hopefully everybody out there is going to spend some time with their family and friends or friends. Hopefully everybody is doing well and is looking forward to the coming new year as well. Let us take a moment and acknowledge that the reason we celebrate Christmas is actually the birth of our Savior. It's a symbol, it's symbolic, I guess, technically, if you want to look at it from that perspective of his birth. So thank you for watching over and protecting us and sacrificing your life so we might have a chance to be with you in salvation and eternity in the end of all of this. You watch over us and take care of us. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a free ride through this life, however. There are trials and tribulations in this process that we go through. But I am thankful for the opportunity. You've blessed us greatly. In Jesus' precious name I pray. Amen. So, the USPS did their thing, came through in a pinch. We're going to look at the latest and greatest, if you will. Looks like I need to get on the sharpening aspect of this a little bit here. I mean, it's doing okay that way. Anyway, Mr. MaxFlow sent me I guess this is the first production version, technically. So if we're taking a look at the latest and greatest, here it is. Now it's important to note that this is going to be available for sale somewhere around mid-January from what I'm understanding. I mean, I'm not involved in that part of the equation. I just pass information along. However, we started testing the prototype version of this product back in late April of this year, and I ran a stock 500i for months this year testing. We did a lot of testing with a lot of different products, well, several different products, if you will, through the process of, you know, trying this and seeing what works, trying that, seeing what works. So it's important to note that this is the MaxFlow Mini. A semi-pro series is what he considers this. It doesn't have the same amount of surface area as the Pro series, which is what he's calling the bigger version with the cage. We'll look at that in a second. And segueing off for just a minute here, we have like the big reveal behind the curtain, if you will, and that'll shed some light in this process as well. Essentially, everything is going to be the same, except though you'll have to buy the 661 kit, which is going to have the lid that's designed to work with the 661. They're notated inside MF661, so you won't get them confused. But I mean, once I pull this out of the bag, you'll understand. You won't be getting confused, I don't think. Now, I use more oil than what's recommended at the factory, a little bit more oil, somewhere around a third more, maybe. Maybe a quarter more, this depends. But I use a little bit more oil. That allows me to get a little bit more time out of it, essentially. And I use a real thin oil. I use PJ1 because it's real thin, but it's really tacky. And so with the extra oil, you can run it a little bit longer, probably. At least that's what I seem to think through my testings over the years. But the thinness of the oil lets the air flow through pretty well. So that's kind of my claim to fame. And if we look on the back, we can see some information that's important to note. And we'll take it apart and we'll look in there, but essentially he has a flow bench. So I've seen a lot of flow bench testing with a lot of different filters, dirty, clean, whatever. And you can really tell the difference between even this one and a stock one. It's like utterly amazing. The differential and how well this flows compared to the stock system HD2. However, if we want to talk about the 500i Pro Series, it doesn't flow. It flows pretty good. You can kind of see on here we have stock 400, stock HD2 on a stock 462, and then the mini legacy 462-400. That's the amount of additional CFM, so it goes from basically 90 to about 130. That's like a couple days of runtime, what that equals right there. And then if we look at basically the Pro Series, which is up on top, it comes in at about 147. So there's like quite a bit of difference. And where it's important to note, this filter is not for long-term use. I ran a couple of them, 2 to 4 days in the process trying to figure out where the limit was. For me, a couple of days worked out pretty well. 3 days, they seem to do okay. By the time you run through the end of the 4th day, if it's any kind of dusty conditions, it's like it's having some problems. And you can see the differential between this particular kit, which is the Semi-Pro, and about the same as the Legacy, which would be the old version cage. I'm assuming everybody understands what that means. We'll take a look at that in a second. But the runtime you get in the Pro Series is a lot further, lot more time. I ran 4 and 5 days continually and didn't really have any problems with material particulates getting passed anywhere. Where this one, after about 3 days, you're 2.5, maybe 3, you're going to start pulling some debris by. So that's kind of what we had talked about in the process. He has the placard in here that's going to explain something that's very important that needs to happen. Before we look at the cage and the elements, and then we'll be able to compare to some of the other stuff in a minute. It's super important to get rid of the 4 little, I don't know what you'd call those, they're studs maybe. They work on the back of the HD2 element, and they hold that element down on the filter base. This system, you don't want to do that because you'll be poking a hole in your element essentially, or 4 holes if you will. So that's important that you take care of that. Super awesome paperwork. I mean, it even feels good. So we can look at a 661 and a 500i right here. You can see, like I talked about, there's 2 different lids. You can see in the picture that there's quite a bit of room to move around in there, but we'll just like spoon this in here and check it out. Now, why this flows so good is this cage is pretty tall, and the holes they have a nice shape to them, and they allow a lot of airflow through. And he did a lot of flow bench testing in this process and found a little bit of a different design that allows, well, actually makes it so there's not as much turbulence, which is actually pretty helpful. And there's only one way it works on the 500i, which you can see the lid in there, I hope, 500i up. It's a little bulbous in the back. That's kind of why it's not necessary for also not necessary for those little studs that stick up. So essentially, if we put it in there and have it set up, you can see that there's a pretty good amount of room around that element, essentially. We'll put it on there and then we'll get it compressed in there and figure out. Now this filter's got about 2.5 days. Whoops, sorry about that. This element here, this is actually the new and improved cage. If you can see it down in there, it has a gray lid on it, which is important to note. So I ran this particular ensemble for, like I said, about 2.5 days. I was cutting quite a few redwoods, so that kind of changes the process a little bit. They are pretty dusty, the bark, especially when it's dry. And so that's kind of something that you get a lot of crud buildup really quick. I ran the legacy situation on saws over the years, and I changed them about 2.5 days. I knew other fallers back then that were going about 5 days. I never felt that that was actually a good thing. But you can see how it fits on there, and there's quite a bit of room inside of where I call it the big kid version. Joseph calls it the semi-pro, or excuse me, the pro version. So there you go. You can run the stock cover, have the stock look, if you will. You're not going to get anywhere near the amount of runtime with that particular filter. This particular filter in the new kit. Now we'll be able to take a look, hopefully. Oh no, it's not coming off. Crap. I thought maybe it'd stick on there. It didn't. So I guess we're just winging it. It's not going to be able to hold on there without the stud, unfortunately. But if we look at, we can see, I think we can see how there's a pretty good amount of room left inside there. So now if we want to take a look at, well, actually it's kind of stuck on there now, I just noticed. So we're going to bend this down and take a look at it. So essentially you can see there's distance all the way around the element, almost a 1/2 inch in some of the places, down to about 1/4 in some of the others. If we want to take a look at this situation here, we can see it's a lot thicker though. So there's more surface area, which means you can run it longer between cleanings. That's like pretty obvious. Essentially, more than doubling. It's about 3 or 4 times the amount of time you can run. I've seen situations where you run these for an hour and they're kind of messed up. So it's similar spacing. The HD2 was a little bit smaller, just a fuzz smaller. If we want to compare that to the, what I call the big kid version, I'm pretty sure you can see the size differential there. It's huge. That gives you a lot more runtime because of the surface area. And it also lets the air pass through easier, which I've said for years, the MaxFlow systems are basically bolt-on horsepower. That's why I run them on my steel saws for the most part. Some of the other, I don't know, I've run other filters as well, but it's hard to beat the rain cover situation or brush cover if you're working out on the coast, if you will. Where I seem to spend a lot of my time out on the coast. super nicely spelled out. Kind of talks a little bit about the history. Joseph actually worked in the woods a little bit, bucking behind a faller. That's how he kind of came onto this. They were working in a pretty dusty situation and figured out that having to pack multiple air cleaners out in the brush was just not productive. I guess we'll look at this. Is kind of interesting. This is I think this is the very first one, or one of the very few first ones that came out on just regular printer paper. This one got exposed to some rain. It was cloudy but wasn't raining. I had it out here, and then it got wet, and then it kind of thrashed the packaging. But this is an early version. Doesn't have the informational page, however. Super nice. And here's a version running with the legacy cage, if you will. So there's going to be a Pro Series cage and a legacy cage. This is going to be the legacy cage. This is going to come in all the kits, the orange covers that fit from 044 up to 660, the 880, 084, 088. All of those bigger saws are going to have the Pro Series cage in those kits when they become available. So we kind of looked at a lot of this process here. Maybe we'll just get rid of this 500i because it's old news, essentially. And take a look at what's in the wind, essentially. I'm not exactly positive on when these next two, there's 3 products we're going to unveil right now. I'm not exactly positive, to be honest with you, what the order is going to be as far as the products being released. So if we want to like just check that out real quick, here we go. So this is my personal 400. Joseph put that system on my saw for me, I don't know, a month and a half ago or something. And this is the 462. Also, he put that saw, or excuse me, he put that system on my saw like 2 days ago. And he has the new cage, which is a little different than the old cage, as we can see. Like I said, all the 120cc saw kits, if you buy one of those, will come with the Pro Series cage. The legacy kits are going to come with this because that's the way they came forever. Personally, I would buy the new cage and just retrofit my old systems with the new cage. This is for the legacy saw. It has the orange lid. This is for a 500i with the gray lid. I never looked inside this one to see. Oh yeah, it actually says legacy. So the color is going to tell you everything. A lot of flow bench testing to get to this place. I put one of these on my saw, I don't know, a few months ago, and I could tell the difference like immediately. It was like night and day, the differential between like this system and this cage and this cage, if you will. I think he's going to have these available for purchase separately. Like I said, I'd replace all of them in my saws. That's what I'm going to actually do. I told him today I was going to have to buy a bunch of these and get my 064, my 084 all like retrofitted, if you will. I'm not exactly positive when these are going to become available for sale. I would buy every single one of them that I could. I think he's going to have an option available to upgrade with the legacy for a few extra bucks. I'm not exactly positive on how much that's going to be. I think that's still in the works. Personally, I wouldn't even bother. I'd throw all these out and I'd buy all of these. If you're into performance, if you're not into performance, then you could run these and they'll do great. They do much better than the stock HD2 systems on several levels. So that's about wrapping it up. I'm going to have to say good evening and good night to everybody because my lovely bride is waiting. We're going to go drive around and look at Christmas tree lights, I guess, or house lights or whatever. I mean, I see some people have their trees out in their yards all nicely decorated, houses are decorated, and my lovely bride would like to partake in that, so that's what we're going to be doing. I wish you all the best for this Christmas. I wish you all the best for this Christmas season. Well, we're probably not getting this on the air until, I would say, probably Friday, so hopefully everybody had a great Christmas at this point, I guess. And in the wind, I'm unclear on when they're going to be available. But these are production versions, so it's really close. So be on the lookout. Definitely the best systems that are out there as far as flow, performance, longevity, the whole process. He's got everybody beat hands down. I could go into a lot of reasons why, but then that's talking smack, so I'm moving on at this stage of the game. Anyway, thanks for watching this session. Have a blessed day wherever you might be on his green earth.